Overnight, we sailed to France, and this morning we've travelled to one of the world's most famous gardens. This garden that I'm in is considered to be one of the most beautiful gardens in France, and I would argue it is one of the most beautiful in the world. Giverney is something that everybody should experience at least once in their life. Claude Monet's gift to the world wasn't just his incredible artworks, it was something else, a living art that he created, this beautiful garden that everybody should come and explore. Claude Monet is one of the most famous painters in history, an impressionist master and interpreter of the world around him. From 1883 until his death in 1926, Monet lived here, where he built a small home within a beautiful garden that served as the scene for his most famous works. It is said that an artwork is never fully completed because it's always open to the interpretation, the eye of the beholder. And with that, Monet has guaranteed himself immortality because his greatest artwork is something that continues to grow and evolve through all the seasons. And no visit to Monet's home is complete without a wander through his two beautiful gardens. And did you know that the flowers that he selected were not selected for their shape, their colour or their form, but in actual fact for their radiance in sunlight? The garden is in two parts, with a flower garden in the front of the house called Clos Normand and the more famous water garden that was started 10 years after he first arrived here. The flower gardens at the front cover about 1 hectare and they're laid out in colour-themed borders. The garden is planted intensively with plants of indiscriminate height and size, things like salvias and dahlias and asters, and they all sit just below some of these structural plants like standardised roses and ornamental fruit trees and flowering trees. There are literally thousands of flowers in these gardens, including plants with colours that provide inspiration for Monet's paintings. A flowering calendar of Monet's gardens is available with a list of what blooms when. In October, the autumn, you will find dahlias blooming looking fantastic, as well as all the other annual flowers until the frosts arrive. Claude Monet didn't want a conformed style of garden. He wanted it to be wild and free-flowing. I suppose that openly creative look, forever changing. He, as he got older, became more and more fascinated with botany and collecting rare and unusual plants, sharing them with his friends. And he would often say that my garden takes up all of my money, but at the same time, it leaves me in raptures. It was with the approval of his local prefecture that Monet started digging the amazing ponds that would be the foundation to his water garden. It was much to the disdain of his local peasant neighbours, who were terribly worried that the exotic plant species that he was introducing might make their way into the river system and flow downstream and poison their water supply. Monet's water garden is stunning. The famous Japanese footbridge is festooned with twisting vines of wisteria. The water lilies, inspiration for Monet's Nymphaeus series, is still in bloom well into October. Later on, the pond would be enlarged to its present-day size. The water garden is full of symmetries and curves. It's inspired by the Japanese gardens that Monet knew from the prints he collected avidly. In his last 30 years, Monet created many of his most memorable works. During this incredibly productive period, his paintings focused almost exclusively on his Giverney gardens and pond and his beloved water lilies. Monet was the most successful commercial artist of his time, and after his death in 1926, the value of his paintings went through the roof. In fact, a painting of the water lilies, a version of it, sold for $70 million recently. It's an incredible feat, but what is really obvious with Monet is his incredible artistry. His creative streak in building this amazing garden lives on with his spirit and his beautiful paintings.